couple of taps back on the bolts, the studs through the frame, it clears enough room, lift it right on out.
Yeah, Chris, and it's also a good idea to go ahead and put the nut, just a couple threads on the end of that bolt, and just tap it in so you don't damage your stock A-frame bolts there.
Okay, boy, you can sure see some wear and tear on this from the years. Bushings are worn, corroded.
See the rip in the ball joint boot allowing dust and dirt into this to where it tears up the inner neoprene inside those inside that ball joint. Here on the back, you're going to need a 13/16 wrench. Put on the top, you'll need a 7/8 socket on the ratchet without an extension. That way you don't slip off your bolt and you can get plenty of torque on it. These things are going to be tight. Alright, we got our nut free. And on the front, you can use a ratchet for one bolt and you'll need a 5/8 wrench on the other bolt. It's just as simple as that. 3 bolts.
Okay, so we've removed all of the stock components here. The spring is out, the other components are out, and we're ready to reassemble. What all would be involved in reassembling this?
Well, Chris, it's as simple as just reversing the disassembly process.
Okay, Danny's actually tightening up the last bolt on the tubular lower control arm. And in just a moment, we're going to start to reassemble the spindle and the hub in the outer portion of this suspension.
All right, Chris, we're good to go.
And again, all of these items are bolted right through the stock location of the original upper and lower control arms. Okay, so the jack's underneath, basically just supporting it, not because it's compressing a spring, but just to hold it up for us right now.
Correct.
Everything else is ready.
Okay, we'll go ahead and install it. All right, Chris. A brand new refurbished spindle, new dust plate, and everything's ready to go. All we got to do is tighten her up.
Okay, the next step here is to put the shock in, and Danny's going to slide it into the frame pocket right now. Okay.
All right, we're ready for the jack.
And what we're doing here is we're actually jacking the shock up, right?
That's correct, Chris.
Because the suspension's actually completely released at this point. So in other words, the suspension itself won't go any lower.
And these Bilstein gas pressure shocks sure have a charge in them. They're a little stiff at first. It should be good right there. All right. And all these control arms come pre-tapped from VBP, so the bolts screw right up into them very nice and easily. You can go ahead and let the jack down, Chris. And you're all set. Just got to get one side bolted in. That's all there is to putting the shock in.
Okay guys, this is the transverse spring for the front suspension. It doesn't take 2 people to install it, but we're going to take 2 people here today. Danny and I are going to put it in place. Basically, everything is up here in the suspension. I've already dropped this bolt through with the bushing on top. Danny's going to drop the other bolt through with the bushing on top. It'll go right through the lower control arm.
All right.
We'll take the spring, slide it up in place. We'll apply the bushing. We'll apply the washer and the nut. We'll go ahead and run this up here, just finger tight, enough to hold it in place. Okay. The next step is going to be mounting the transverse spring up to the adjustable points. That's done with the bracket and the 4 bolts. With the mounting pad centers over the spring. and together we'll push the spring into place. We'll loosely start the bolts. Before we tighten anything down, we'll take a close look and make sure that everything is centered up well. How you doing over there?
Good. Just trying to see the first hole here. All right.
These bolts are tightened up with a 1/2-inch wrench.
So what setting do we have it on right now, Chris, since we have all the bolts and the plates and the blocks and everything in the very outer holes?
That would be the stiff setting. That would be the more firm, the more sport setting.
And to change this, it's just as simple as sliding this bolt out and sliding it inward, correct?
That's correct. And the further we go in with it, the softer and softer the ride will be.
So what you're looking at right now is the adjustable spring bolt. I believe this is the 8-inch, right, Chris?
That's correct.
So when you want to adjust you just strictly adjust ride height with this, correct, Chris?
Right, you would take a 13/16 wrench on the top and a 7/8 wrench on the bottom, and you would begin to tighten that up, and as you tighten that up, that'll close this gap, and once there's weight on the car, the pressure will come against the spring, and that'll allow you to set the ride height. Also, as weight comes on the car too, right now you'll see the spring is basically resting against the cross member. It'll come off of the cross member just as soon as we lower it down on the wheels on it. And what we'll do here is we'll tighten all of this up. We'll set a basic ride height, probably run this up and leave about 1 inch of thread or so exposed to begin with.
Okay.
And go from there. After we know everything is where we want it, we'll pull these back out. We'll put some thread locking compound on these threads so that they don't back out under vibration. There's Zerk fittings within the joint so that you can grease these.
Right here in the middle?
Right in the middle,
Okay.
and give you nice long life. And we're all set. That's all there is to it.